Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of 2 Cents with Bentz. I'm your host, Dana Bentz, and welcome to the show. So today we have a great episode. I have on Renee Small. And what I love, what I'm really excited to talk about with Renee is she's doing 31 days of live streaming in the month of October. So 31 days, the whole month of October, she's going live every single day. And I think I do a lot of live streaming, 2, 3 times, 4 times a week, but I never live stream every single day. So I'm really excited to talk to Renee. But before we bring her on the show, I wanted to welcome everyone here. Thanks so much for tuning in. I saw Mike in the comments and Senor Payasada. Cool. Hello. Thanks for tuning in. And Tim Sohn, shout out to Kelsey Bentz shout out to Kelsey Bentz. Tim, it's Dana. Tim, thanks for tuning in. But welcome to 2 Cents. If you're new to the show, I go live every single Tuesday, and I interview someone new in the marketing, branding, streaming industries to learn more about branding and to up our own brand game. So without further ado, I'd love to bring on Renee Small. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Dana. I am excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I know you have a ton of LinkedIn Live connections, but for the people who aren't connected with you, who are watching the show, can you give us a brief background overview on who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. I am Renee Small. I am a cybersecurity super recruiter. And for the month of October, which is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we've been going live every single day,
Yikes.
Which is nuts.
I know.
Demystifying cybersecurity careers for people. So it's been amazing. It's nuts. My head is spinning. It's been awesome. I'm at today's what? The 27th?
Yep, 27
live streams courtesy of StreamYard. So
wow, very cool. Well, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to talk about that because I just can't even imagine. I was saying when I started the show, like, that's a lot of live streaming, and I live stream a lot, but going live every single day, like, that's such a commitment. So you chose October just because of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. That's why you picked that.
Yeah.
And why did you choose to go live every single day? Why was that important to you?
Well, I wanted to be consistent. One of the things that I wanted to do was demystify cybersecurity careers, cybersecurity as a whole, and then cybersecurity careers, because people tend to think that you have to be super techie, that you have to be, an Uber nerd, all these different things they think about when it comes to cybersecurity. Right. So I wanted, for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is the month of October, I wanted to come on live every day, showcase various people who had broken into the industry, from all different types of careers. So we've had people that have come from, we've had on our podcast, we've had Uber drivers turned into cybersecurity professionals. We've had waitresses turned to cybersecurity professionals. I mean, we've had people from across the board who had history degrees or people who had never had degrees. I mean, it's been amazing because so many people have come on and kind of shared their story and talked about how they were able to break into this industry that seems like one big mystery when it's out there.
Gotcha. Okay. So the format of your show is a new guest every single day, and then you're interviewing them about their role or about their job?
Most of the time, yes. So
Okay.
I would say 99% of what we do is interview other people.
Okay.
And we bring on, specifically with this show, we started with this podcast called Breaking Into Cybersecurity. And we
Oh.
had it before LinkedIn had live streams. So we always used to,
Ah.
we would record and then we would post it on LinkedIn and we would post it on iTunes and everything else. But with StreamYard, which is why I love you all to pieces,
Oh,
it has
yay.
been it has been so easy to stream on LinkedIn. So I got access to LinkedIn Live at the end of last year, started streaming, a little bit at a time. But when the pandemic hit, realized that people really needed a lot of help. And so started streaming more often. And then, fast forward 6 months or so, I think I looked at the stats yesterday and we did something like 200 and something live streams
Oh
over the
my
course
God.
of a year. It's nuts.
Oh my gosh. This is almost every day. I think it's like more than working days.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like today, I'm on with you, so it's not my live, it's your live.
Yeah.
But earlier
It's still
today,
live.
it's still live. But earlier today, I had a live stream. Tomorrow, I have one. I mean, we've had one for every single day in October. We've had one, and then for the month of prior to the month of October, we were doing them approximately maybe 3 or 4 times a week.
Okay. So almost every day. You hardly upped it in the month of October.
Yeah.
You were already going live.
Kind of. Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
love that. That's so great. So you must be really finding value in live streaming. And what we're going to talk about in just a minute is how you've grown your LinkedIn connections, or you've grown your audience. It was already a pretty big audience when you got started, but live streaming has helped grow that so much. But before we talk about that, I want to know, what's the process of finding so many guests? Because I have a show where I have one guest once a week, and sometimes it's tough to find the right guest for a show once a week. So I'm curious how you go about finding guests for every single day.
I know it's a process. So I actually have a co-host. He's on sometimes. He's not on all the times.
Okay.
But his name is Chris Fullon, and he comes on with me. And sometimes he finds guests. But for this month, I've been pretty much doing a ton of guest outreach myself.
Okay.
And because we have this platform, we're both cybersecurity professionals. I'm more on the hiring side of cybersecurity. So I've worked in the field, but then my long-term career has always been recruiting, career coaching, helping people get into opportunities. So I have like a combined skill set. And so think about being on LinkedIn and being a recruiter, like, everybody wants to be your friend, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I had a lot of people, but when we started this Breaking Into Cybersecurity podcast, we were very, very focused, and we wanted to bring on people who are under 5 years experience. And not necessarily 5 years experience overall, because we've had 60, 50, 70-year-olds and stuff come on and talk about breaking into the industry, which I think is amazing.
Wow, that's neat.
We've had people come on from all different walks of life with all different types of backgrounds. We've had people who've had medical backgrounds, people who've had all different types of backgrounds, and they've come on to the show. But our main criteria was that they were only 5 years in the industry. And we specifically focused on that because Chris and I would have people come to us and want us to mentor them, and they were being given pretty outdated advice when it came to breaking into this industry. So if you think about, what you do, Dana, or what any of these people do out here, like think about going and wanting to do what I do, wanting to be a recruiter, wanting to be in marketing, wanting to be in whatever. And somebody from 40 years ago or 30 years ago comes to you and says, oh, Dana, you have to be writing copy on by hand, or whatever.
Yeah. Uh-oh, you just went on mute.
I
Oh,
don't
there we go.
So it's all about, if they came to you and they said, Dana, how do you get into marketing? And, or you went to someone and you said, how do I get into marketing? And this person is giving you stuff from 25 years ago. Oh, you have to go work for a newspaper. Oh, you have to do this, do that.
Yeah.
It's like bizarre, right? So that's the kind of outdated advice that we were hearing from people who were early in their careers trying to break into the industry. And so we wanted to put together like almost like a peer-to-peer network. So we wanted to bring people who have recently broken in to give the advice and give like the tips, the tricks, all the career advice that they had gotten recently. So they tell us about things that we've never heard before, websites, and they're like, oh, go to this conference. And every single time what Chris and I joke around about is that we learn something new every single time. So it's pretty awesome.
Oh, that's so neat. So you had the podcast beforehand. That was running for how long? How long before you started actually live streaming the podcast?
So we had it since 2018. We started the podcast in September of 2018.
No kidding. And then why did you feel like live streaming was important? Like, why did you want to try live streaming out to LinkedIn?
Well, LinkedIn is my number one platform. Like I have a Facebook, but
recruiter.
I'm a recruiter. I have a Facebook, but I don't do much on Facebook. I would love to get back to Twitter. I did Twitter years ago, and I would love to get back, but sometimes it's so hard to keep up.
It's hard to manage them all.
It's so hard to manage them all, and so LinkedIn was kind of like a natural progression. So seeing all our people were on LinkedIn anyway, going live on LinkedIn now, it was like, whoa, there's this new thing. I mean, it was so funny. The first time I went live, so many people reached out. They're like, how'd you go live? How did you get live? I'm trying to get live.
So cool.
It's like a big deal.
I know. Well, it's still like, it's still a really big deal to have access because so many people, they're still waiting for their application to get approved because they're still in beta or whatever. They're still accepting applications.
Correct.
Not everyone has it. So it's kind of like this, I don't know, invite only type of vibe on LinkedIn.
I know. That's what it is. It's like this invite only thing. People, the first time I went live, the first couple of times I got bombarded. Like, how'd you get access? Who knows you? Who do you know? What did you put in your application? I'm like, I don't know. I just put up what I do.
Yeah. That's so funny. So we're here to talk about like really growing your audience. You started with a pretty big size audience already because you were big on LinkedIn, but it's helped live streaming the podcast has really helped grow the audience. So what was that like? Like, what was your process like, or what were some things that you did to grow the audience bigger?
Yep. So I like to go after, and I think I don't even know if I fully answered your other question about how do I find the guests. So really going after people who had a certain target, which was, under 5 years experience. I totally bring on folks that have big audiences too. We tend to promote, so in cybersecurity, there's this huge community of people. There's a lot of conferences. I don't know if every industry is like this, but we have all these kind of like, we have like the big name conferences, and then we have all these little underground conferences that people start. Cool. And a lot of those younger people or people who are looking to get into the industry, even if they're not younger, they're just career changers, they tend to go to the kind of on the ground, grassroots, cheaper, more inexpensive conferences, and they have these huge communities. So tapping into some of those leaders, like the conference speakers and some people who are, there's these women in cybersecurity groups, the CEOs of those, the people who are leaders of those, it's great to connect with them. It's great to connect with, there's another group called like Blacks in Cyber. There's all these little groups of folks. Then there's there's tons and tons and tons.
How do you even find all these?
They're all, they actually hang out on LinkedIn. So there's B-sides. There's tons of these smaller groups of people that are like 1,000, 500, 800, those types of folks. Yeah. And they have huge networks. And so whenever I see, I'm on LinkedIn almost like a shark, and I pay attention to what's going on. And if I see someone who's recently broken into the industry, I totally just I reach out to them. I'm like, you need to be on a podcast. You need to, I want you on here. And I go after them. And I reach out and I say, I want you to be on here. And sometimes I get no's. It's just life. And then, sometimes I get maybes or not right nows. And a lot of times I get yeses. And those are the people I bring on.
No kidding. And interviewing guests you found is a really great way to, like, you're getting your show in front of their audience, and now they're connected with you, you're connected, they want to get their kind of network connected with your network. So it's usually a yes.
That's a total yes. So like I had a young lady on this weekend, and she has a huge audience, and she was talking to me about getting on Twitter more often. And I told her I would, but long story short is she has this huge audience on Twitter. She posted out there, and like all these people join a live. So out of nowhere, all of these people show up, they join a live stream. Our lives tend to be very, very interactive. Tons of comments. I try not to censor much. I post almost every single comment, people out all the time. We want it to be interactive and fun. We want people to ask questions. Part of me wants everyone on the live. Like I want it to be like 25 people.
I love that. Like everyone, like you make it so like you engage with the audience so much that they almost feel like they're in the live stream show.
Totally.
Yeah,
totally. I post the comments like it's a running joke. So I have these curtains behind me, and the curtains it's a window. It's just a big window, and it's woods back there. Cool. But the sun beams in, so I have to draw the curtains.
Oh yeah.
And so when the sun is not when it's funny because like for today, for example, I had the curtains open because it wasn't as sunny. And they made jokes like, oh, what's the mystery curtains? Renee has pots of gold behind these curtains. So people chime in. And I put that up there. Like I show all the comments. I show the comments. So it ends up being fun. And that's what we want to do. We want people to realize like cybersecurity is fun. It's a cool industry. Like people are super laid back. There's a ton of money in it. We love the passionate people. It's this underground thing. It's cool. And so we want people out there to realize like there's all this fun and this energy in this field.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to, that's why I bring as much of that in as possible. So it's tons of engagement.
Cool. So what are some of the ways you engage the audience other than just talking to them in the show and like posting the comments and like interacting with them? Like we see Tim, we see Dave, we see
Dave, hey Dave.
Yep, we see Stefan. Yeah, David. He says Renee's the most awesome live streamer. Yep.
David is fantastic. So I met David on this. I was watching Your 2 Cents.
That's
and I saw David present a couple weeks ago or a couple months ago and connected with him, gave me all these awesome tips because he's just phenomenal. He's a real deal producer. I'm just a recruiter who live streams, but Dave like, oh, you got to change your lighting. You could do this, do that. So I took the tips. He's amazing. See, Dave, look at my mic. I got a mic. Last time I didn't have a mic.
I love that. Yeah. So what else do you do other than interacting in the chat, showing them on screen using, oh my gosh, David, Renee's my hero. I know. Mine too. I can't believe you're live streaming this much.
Nuts.
So other than the chat, like what are some other ways you bring that energy and you bring that engagement, like you bring the audience into the show almost?
So before the lot, so what I've been doing recently is LinkedIn in particular just got what's this thing? It's called stories. Oh yeah. And yeah, so I've never done stories before. Like I said, I'm not on Facebook like that. I never did stories. So I started to do stories and I'm not consistent. I'm not as consistent with the lives. I'm really consistent with the lives. I'm not as consistent with the stories, but I do, when I can, like right before we went live, I was like, hey guys, I'm going to be on with StreamYard, like my favorite live streaming tool. So I put that out there. And I have done that before. So right before I go live, I'll put out, hey folks, we're going live at 11 o'clock. Approximately 11 Eastern is when we go live most days, Monday through Friday. And for the month of October, we go live at 1 p.m. So put out there like, hey, we're about to go live. So that engages people. And then some people kind of reach out to me behind the scenes beforehand. And they do that. And then I comment and respond. I update when I do the live streams, I put them on the top. I highlight them on my LinkedIn profile. I tag the person. So I go back after the live is finished, I go back and I tag the person online. And they typically share it too. So we get engagement and we start talking about comments, and they'll say, Renee, thank you so much for having us. Or they'll say, Renee and Chris, thank you for having us. And then I, chime in and add in my comments. So total engagement, total like beforehand and afterwards, as much as I'm one individual, but as much as I can, I want to engage with people because it's just so much more fun to do it.
Yeah, it makes the live stream so much more it's so much more fun to do instead of just like I'm talking, you're talking, and that's it. You need to bring the audience in, and then there's just more going on.
It's much more going on, and they're so engaged, and they make their comments and their jokes and all that stuff. So that's happening during, but like you said, before and after, I try to chime back in afterwards as well. So
yeah, I love that. I love that you said you pin it to the top, so everyone can see it. Like when they go to Renee on LinkedIn, they can find it. Because I know some people are like, oh, I want to watch your show, but I never can find it. Right. And that's such good feedback that you got to move it somewhere or just put it to the top or pin it somehow.
I do. I pin all of them, especially and that I learned that trick this month. I started because people were looking for the live.
They can't
like
find
when you
it.
go live, what's going on. So I started pinning it to the top of my LinkedIn profile.
That's a good
And
tip.
so now, right after it's done, every single day, I just pin it up there.
Yep.
I tag the person if they want links. Like sometimes they give resources, especially since people are looking for jobs.
Yeah.
We'll give resources. We'll give conference information. All of that. I'll just add that stuff, and then I'll pin it to the top of my post of my feed.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. That's a good live streaming tip.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit about the podcast. We talked about how it turned into the live stream show. Are you taking the audio from the live stream show and posting it to the podcasting platforms as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, can you talk about that?
Yeah. So we go live to LinkedIn and YouTube.
Yep.
And then my podcast co-host, he does all the magic. He takes it, he downloads the audio, and he posts it, he uploads it to all of the podcasts. So it goes to iTunes, wherever podcasts are. So iTunes and everything else.
Spotify and all those.
Spotify, everything. Yep.
Very cool. And it's so easy. Does he edit it at all, or he just takes the audio?
He just takes the audio.
So easy.
Super easy. And that's another reason, Dana, I have to tell people, and everybody's here because they love StreamYard, right? But when I tell you that StreamYard has literally saved my life, because I'm one of these people, I don't want to edit anything. And I want to say like maybe a year ago, so pre-StreamYard, before live, we would have people that would joke around about the fact that we don't edit, our stuff is kind of janky, like. Oh, no. and we were known as these people, we don't edit our podcast. It's just rough and raw, and it's about the content, and that's it. Because we're not podcast professionals, we are. He has a job. I own a company, a cybersecurity recruiting company. Like we have day jobs, right?
Yeah.
So this was just an extension of what we did, and we did it as a labor of love to help people who were coming to us asking for this help. So
I love that.
We put it out there, and we're like, we don't have time to edit, like we're not going to do this. And we just put it out, and people would say, you should edit, you should do this and that. So I love StreamYard, and I've recommended you guys to everybody. Everybody like, do this. I'm like, go to StreamYard. Like you press one button and it works. So it is so easy, and I absolutely love that, how easy it is to press a button. I send a link.
Yeah.
People don't have to download anything. They don't have to feel like, they could do it from their phones now,
So
everything
easy.
else.
Yep.
So it's just so super smooth. And that's why I absolutely love
I love that. Well, thank you so much, Renee. That's so nice to hear. And we really we built it to be so easy. Like we wanted people to have no technical knowledge or not be tech savvy at all and be able to put on a really nice looking professional live stream where you could interview people, where you could talk to people in the comments. So it's so nice to hear you say that. And I really love all your tips for streaming on LinkedIn. And the last thing I want to touch on before we wrap up is just if someone was starting. So I know your show, you interview people who are starting, or you interview people who have gotten a role in cybersecurity, and that's to help the people who are wanting to get into the industry and have all these questions. But for the people who are wanting to start a show like yours or an interview type style show, and they're trying to grow on LinkedIn, do you have any tips for those people on what to do?
Sure. I would say my first tip would be to think about who you would want to interview if you want to do interviews. Yeah. So for me, interviews are super easy because, I come up with the questions. It's almost the same kind of questions every time, more or less.
Right.
And I don't have to do a ton of research. I've done a couple Ask Me Anythings, but most of the Ask Me Anything AMAs come from the people who have been on the show. So if you're going to do AMAs and things like that, you have your questions. If you're going to interview people, start with your friends. Start with people who are cool with you, who you think would make great guests, make it easy for them. A lot of people want to know the questions in advance so they're not too nervous, especially when they're, tend to be earlier in their careers. They're like, oh my God, what are you going to ask me? I'm like, we're not here to make you look bad. So,
especially if they're new to live streaming, then it's really nerve wracking to go live.
It's very nerve wracking for people going live. It's like, OMG. And then sometimes they see how many people are there, like, oh my God, all these people. It's okay.
It's gonna be okay.
Yeah. And what I like about it is just, I feel like, especially with the comments and the engagement, you almost forget that you're live. Right. For me, I feel like I'm just talking to you. I know there's tons of people out there, but I feel like I'm just talking to you. And they get into that as well. So I would say go after people who you think would make good, that you're actually curious about. That's the first thing I would say. Okay. Go after people that you're curious about and you want to learn about something about what they do. There's tons of people who have, there are people who have live streams that are more technical in our field. I focus on mostly cybersecurity. So the people who they do trainings, they do, Ask Me Anythings, they do all of that. So whatever it is you're most interested in, I think when you bring that energy and that interest and that curiosity, people want to be a part of that, regardless of what it is. So if you're in marketing or you're in sales or whatever, and you want to learn something new, go after those people who are the gurus, A, yourself, like finding out the information, and B, go after the people who you want to hear from, because I feel like when you interview them, they are going to be you're just going to be more engaged, and that will bring the energy from the audience as well. Yeah. So that would be my number one tip. And don't be discouraged when people say no. I've gotten tons and tons of no's. Like for 30 something guests, I mean, we've been doing this for a while. We have over 100 podcasts at this point. I think we're at 120.
That's so crazy.
We reach out to people all the time. I'm constantly reaching out. Constantly. Yeah. So it's just constant outreach. Don't get discouraged. People say no. It's not a big deal. Just move on to the next one.
Yeah. I love that. That's such a good tip. And I love that you said, when you are invested in the interview, I wanted to hear from you, Renee, about your live streaming experience and how you're using StreamYard and how you're growing your audience. For me, I think that's such a good It's not only a great way to get guests, but I think it's a great way to stay motivated to keep doing your show, like to keep showing up week after week doing the podcast, or day after day if you're streaming every day. Like you stay motivated when you're actually interested in what your interview is about.
Totally.
Yeah, I think
another thing I would add is to not don't worry about equipment. Like I've done 100 podcasts and I just got a mic. Just like this week.
Nice. For this show.
This is the first time I'm actually using
That's so awesome. So what were you using before that nice mic? Those. See, you can get started with anything. That's another good tip.
Yep. So don't feel like you need equipment. That's one of the first questions people ask me. What about the equipment? What do I do? I'm like, you have an iPhone or you have an Android and you have headphones that go with them. And I don't even have earbuds because I have a bunch of little kids and my 3-year-old will take them and eat them. She's done that before. I keep these wire ones and and that's it. And that's all you need. Your laptop, this little light.
That's all you need. I love that. That's all you need. Like you don't need to go fancy. You don't need to even start fancy. You can do 100 shows before you get a mic, get a camera, get all these things.
Totally.
Yeah. So just get started with what you have.
Just get started. Just start.
I love it, Renee. Well, Renee, thank you so much for being on the show and providing so much value to my audience who's trying to grow their brand and their audience on LinkedIn and YouTube. But for the people who want to tune into your show and to see you live, where can they do that?
Absolutely. So they can either they can follow me on LinkedIn or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with anyone. So there's my LinkedIn profile. And then we also have a YouTube channel called Breaking into Cybersecurity. And we stream to LinkedIn and YouTube for the rest of October, 11 a.m. Eastern, daily, Monday through Friday. And then Saturday and Sundays at 1 p.m. And then in November, which is kind of already crazy, we have like 3 or 4. We already have like about 3 or so a week. I'm not doing a weekend, though, but I'm definitely doing a couple a week. Yeah.
Are you going to take holidays off, Renee?
No, I have a, you know what's funny? I have a live stream like the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That is so crazy. You're live streaming like extraordinaire.
Yeah, it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
I love it. Well, Renee, thank you again so much for being a guest and talking about StreamYard and talking about live streaming. It was so great to hear from you.
You too. Thank you so much for having me. And like I said, anybody can reach out. Happy to share. Absolutely love the ease of use of StreamYard. I forwarded, like right before this live, I forwarded 2 or 3 people. I'm like, StreamYard, that's where you got to go.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yeah, thank you. Well, it's so true that it's really it's just an easy way to get started.
It's very easy.
When you're starting, well, even 300 episodes in or 200 episodes in, you're still using StreamYard because it's just easy.
And I'm not changing. Like this is it. Like I totally, we love StreamYard. It's just way easy. It's easy for the guests. It's easy for me. You know, what I'll start doing is streaming to more platforms. So
smart. Yeah. Cool. Well, Renee, thank you so much again for being on the show. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me.
See you. Oh, so much fun. And everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. And thank you again to Renee for being a guest. We'll be back live next Tuesday at 5 p.m. PST. But in the meantime, connect with Renee and watch one of her daily shows. We've got a few more days of her live every single day. I'm so impressed. Thank you again, everyone. We'll be live next week. See you then.